I'm experimenting with some new media here. I have discovered that oil pastel, so that's pastel pigments that have been mixed with oil, and colored pencil are compatible, and they create some interesting effects. One of the things that I find difficult with colored pencil is to get a blend or to get any kind of painterly look. There are some people who can do that. I am not one of them, although I am learning. But I've been having fun with this oil pastel. This one happens to be the brand name Van Gogh, but there are others that make it. But it's the oil in it that mixes with the colored pencil in such an interesting way. So, for instance, I can start either by putting down some marks and going over it. And when I do that, I can still see the marks that I've put down. And then I can go into that with, go right over it with colored pencil. And I need my paper towel because it's not powdery like dry pastels, but it does, get some gunk on it. So I want to make sure I kind of get that off. I can go over this and I can do any number of things. I can either put some broad shape. I'm using the side of the pencil here because I want some broad color shapes. You can see how some of the yellow is showing through there. So I can either blend it and get some very soft edges. If I don't like that, I can just go right over it. And it doesn't cover it exactly, but it gives a very interesting look. Then if I work on some of the page that doesn't have the oil pastel on it, I get the more traditional colored pencil look, which I find to be a very pleasing combination. Makes some very interesting textures. And what I like most about it is I can go back and forth and make changes, which is something that isn't always so easy with using colored pencil in the traditional way. So I'm working on an image here, and I'm using for my palette a golden yellow. That's not the official name of this, but it's a deeper yellow. It's got some orange or reddish in it, pretty dark. A dark blue. I'm using dark colors because the white oil pastel will mute them a little bit. And a darker red, like a burgundy or something like that. A dark green. And a dark purple, more like a plum. This is actually called Dahlia purple. This is the image that I'm starting with, and as I always say, I take what I like from it. I don't always do the whole image, but one can. I'm going to sort of focus in on this area here. And the first thing I did was do a little line drawing with the green pencil, which you can see there. And then I went over it completely, except for the red poppy there, because I wanted that on the plain paper. I can always go in later if I want to. And it muted the colors, but I can still see them. And then I went in with this yellow right over the top of the oil pastel, and I didn't blend it. I went right over that green because I can go in and strengthen it later if I want to. And then I'm going to go in with blue for the sky. Now that's pretty dark for the sky, but as I discovered with this oil pastel, and again, I'm using the side of the pencil here so that I can get some broad tone downs. I'm using the pencil almost more like a brush than holding it like this, which I could do if I wanted to go in here and get some detail. But for now I want to get some broad color, so I'm using it this way. And then, as I said, I can blend this. My fingers are dirty, so you want to be sure. I got a few colors in there I didn't mean to get into because my fingers are dirty. I can go over it again and get it lighter by the horizon, which is typical of a sky. And then I could go back over it again to darken the top if I wanted to. I can get some texture in there if I want to, or not. And then I went in with, in the field area here, actually I think I went in with the blue pencil because again, I wanted some strong color because of the next thing I'm going to do. And blue and yellow make green, so I'm hoping that this dark blue over this nice deep yellow will result in a green field. But I can go back over it with a green pencil if I need to at some point. So then I went in with a razor blade. Now you have to be careful with these. They are very sharp. But I discovered that using it on the broad side, I can get some texture going. I can get some broad swoops of texture there, or I can get some using the tip, I can get some very grass-like textures. I have to go to the left because I'm left-handed, so most of my grass is going to go to the left. And if I want to, I can go over that with the green. And where there is the oil pastel, sometimes it will pass right over that and act like a resist. And get some interesting textures that way. Like right in here, when I go over this, those strokes are going to stay in there. Now up toward the sky area, I want it to be very soft because things that are in the distance are less distinct, more muted. So I'm going to blend the green and the yellow of this field into that sky, and then get my fingers clean here. I'm going to blend it in a little bit, which is really what's happening up here. It's very soft, no distinct edges, and that's what will make my field look like it's off in a distance there. And I'll keep the sharpness of the textures in the very foreground here. But I can work back and forth, so what I don't like, I can just go over it and rework it. Go in here with my secret tool. Now this buildup, there's a buildup of this oil pastel and colored pencil, and I can actually use that almost to paint with. I have to press a little bit, and I'll go in and put in a few more streaks here. Then when I go in to do the poppy, it's going to be very untextured, which is pretty much the way that poppy looks. I think that's too deep a red for the poppy, so I'm going to mix some yellow in there. I can go in and deepen the edges of this bud here, which I just love. I can keep some of the grassy swoops if I want to. Make sure there's a shadow side. I'm going in with the deep purple for that. So I'm exaggerating the colors that are in this picture, but that is my particular palette, so I'm not intending to exactly copy what's there because I prefer this palette. I discovered this, if the razor blade doesn't work, I discovered a good palette knife will work, and you can do even more interesting things with that. Getting some nice big swoops, and then, as I said, as it accumulates on the back, you can actually paint with that. Get some interesting things going on. I also discovered that it works with graphite, so if you want to work with black and white, you can get a dark effect, you can get a grade effect, you can go in and make some very sharp lines, and it will blend. But it will not smear in the same way. Blending is like a controlled smear. It will not smear in the same way that charcoal does. And again, if I don't like it, I can go back in and rework it. I can get the textured thing going on. I can go back in with the point of the pencil and go very dark if I need to. So I think this is a fun mixed media combination.